The following quotation is from the Ministry Magazine of October 1993 on page 10. This magazine is an official publication of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, published for Seventh-day Adventist ministers. This article was written by George Knight, a professor at Andrews University. He says, most of the founders of Seventh-day Adventism would not be able to join the church today if they had to subscribe to the denomination's fundamental beliefs. More specifically, most would not be able to agree to belief number 2, which deals with the doctrine of the Trinity. I hope the impact of this reached you. I have to go back and point out what it said. Did you get it? He said, most of the founders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Who were they? James White, Ellen White herself, Joseph Bates, Hiram Edson. Most of those early Adventists, he says, would not be able to join the church today. Why? Because they would not be able to subscribe to the denomination's present fundamental beliefs. What this is saying is that if James White came along today and asked to be admitted as a member of the Adventist Church, when he compared his beliefs with the beliefs of the church today, he would have to turn away. He could not be a member of this church because the beliefs of this church are so different from what those early Adventists believed. What does this say to you? I mean, it tells me that some great change has taken place in the church since the time of James White. A change so significant that it would actually exclude him from membership in this church. What it means in actual fact is that the religion of the Adventist Church today is not the same as the religion of the Adventist Church in the time of James White. Furthermore, consider, the most important point of doctrine is the point on which our religion has changed. That is a shocking point. William Johnson, the editor of the Adventist Review, and again, you couldn't want a more authoritative publication than the Adventist Review. William Johnson, writing in the review of January 6, 1994, says, Adventist beliefs have changed over the years. Most startling is the teaching regarding Jesus Christ. Many of the pioneers, including James White, J.N. Andrews, Uriah Smith, and J.H. Waggoner, held to an Arian or semi-Arian view. That is, that the Son at some point in time before the creation of our world was generated by the Father. The Trinitarian understanding of God, now part of our fundamental beliefs, was not generally held by the early Adventists. Even today, a few do not subscribe to it. Is that so? Many of us never knew that Adventist beliefs had changed over the years. Most of us thought that the Adventism we have believed in, supported and embraced, not to mention the things that we were taught and have believed, were basically the things that God gave to the Adventist Church back in the days when the prophet was alive. But what William Johnson says here is that these beliefs have changed over the years under the impact of what he calls present truth. Now, notice how he refers to the change. He refers to it as most startling. Bear that in mind, most startling, because we are going to come back to this point. He wrote that many of the pioneers believed that the Son was generated by the Father. But he really should have said that the vast majority of them believed this, because this is the evidence of history. So, we can see that on the basis of the admission of two high authorities in the Seventh-day Adventist Church itself, the beliefs of the Adventist Church on the most important doctrine of Christian faith have been changed. I say the most important doctrine because, contrary to the belief of some, the most important doctrine is not the Sabbath or health reform or any of the other Adventist doctrines which Adventists often put first. But as I said, every single creed of Christian belief, and even the Bible itself, emphasizes as most important the doctrine of God. The greatest commandment is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God." That's what it begins with, because it is the most important. And on this point, the Seventh-day Adventist Church has changed from what our pioneers believed. Now, let's go back and look at the significance of this. The testimony of those who lived during those days, as well as those who have studied the history of what the pioneers believed, is clearly and unanimously that our early pioneers never accepted this doctrine of the Trinity. It was something that was brought in as the result of a change